On the scene after those two planes were crashed into the side, we assume, of the World Trade Center towers, which used to be behind me over there. Chief Albert Turry told me that he was here just literally 10 or 15 minutes after the events that took place this morning, and that basically he received word of the possibility of a secondary device, that is another bomb going off. He tried to get his men out as quickly as he could, but he said that there was another explosion which took place, and then an hour after the first hit here, with the first crash that took place, he said there was another explosion that took place in one of the towers here. So obviously, according to his theory, he thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building. One of the secondary devices he thinks that took place after the initial impact he thinks may have been on the plane that crashed into one of the towers. The second device he speculates was probably planted in the building. So that's what we have been told by Albert Turry, who is the Chief of Safety for the New York City Fire Department.
It's not immediately evident, and no one in the administration is talking about it openly, but the war on terrorism could produce major dividends for the United States.
Central Asia, Caspian regions, enormous and valuable oil and gas resources.
Crossing war-torn Afghanistan to Pakistan and eventually India.
September 11th and the extraordinary events, the tragic events of September 11th did create a new reality. As with every event, there are opportunities that arise from it.
Indeed, it may well be that Washington has already begun to take advantage of those opportunities.
America will have a continuing interest and presence in Central Asia of a kind that we could not have dreamed of before.
In the name of the war on terrorism.
A biological or chemical attack in as little as 45 minutes. We cannot wait for the final proof.
Efforts to acquire nuclear weapons.
Develop nuclear weapons.
Nuclear weapons.
The regime is seeking a nuclear bomb. And with fissile material, you can build one within a year.
Iraq has never had the capability to do that. They didn't have it in the first Gulf War. They didn't have it in this war in Iraq. And they don't have it any way of getting it in the future.
Leaders will use worst-case assessments that point to nuclear weapons to generate political support because they know people fear nuclear weapons so much.
Biological and chemical agent to kill millions of people. Chemical weapons, including VX and sarin, mustard gas. To a massive and sudden horror.
Massive death and destruction. Death on a massive scale.
The danger to our country is grave.
Saddam Hussein cavorts with terrorists.
The ties with Al-Qaeda was just a scare tactic to exploit the trauma, the very real trauma that the American people have felt ever since 9/11, and to associate that trauma with Iraq. As you know from the polls, most Americans believe that Iraq had something to do with 9/11, and that was a very successful, very deliberate, and very unethical and immoral operation on the part of the PR people of this administration.
Hey, it's all tomorrow. Right now, come on, give everything. Right now, give that magic moment. Do it right here and now. It means everything.
Is there a chance that some of your civil liberties may slip? while we guarantee the security of this country? Maybe. Maybe.
A satellite that can spot them down to a few feet. Electronic boundaries like those we impose on pets could be set up for these inmates, and surgically implanted electrodes could even shock them until they return to where they're supposed to be.
One thing we could implant would be a subliminal implant. In other words, basically messages being typed into the subconscious constantly. Do the right thing, do what's required of you, be a good citizen, don't disobey the law.
They have volunteered to be the first ever to have microchip identification devices implanted into their body.
After 9/11, I was really concerned with the security of my family.
I wouldn't mind having something planted permanently in my arm that would identify me. If we don't do something, people are going to stop flying. If they stop flying, and I don't go to the Giants games, it means the bastards have won.
It is our duty as loyal Americans to shut up and shut up publicly. We expect every American to support our military, and if they can't do that, to shut up. So you keep your mouth shut.
Like anyone would, I am flattered by your fascination with me.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
Skull and Bones, the elite secret society whose members include some of the most powerful men of the 20th century.
Power and privilege that are cloaked in secrecy. It's not supposed to be the way we do things. We're supposed to do things out in the open in America.
There's also an obsession with death and its trappings.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America?
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? Not much, because it's a secret.
The hijackers were instruments of evil who died in vain. Behind them is a cult of evil which seeks to harm the innocent and thrives on human suffering. Theirs is the worst kind of cruelty. The cruelty that is fed, not weakened, by tears. Theirs is the worst kind of violence. Pure malice while daring to claim the authority of God. We cannot fully understand the designs and power of evil. It is enough to know that evil, like goodness, exists. And in the terrorist, evil has found a willing servant. Evil has found a willing servant.
Evil has found a willing servant.
We received word of the possibility of a secondary device, that is another bomb going off. He tried to get his men out as quickly as he could. He thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building.
Tell us what's happening out there.
We just witnessed some kind of secondary follow-up explosion on the World Trade Center #2, the one.
Secondary. If Jim Smith is with us still in Chopper 2, Jimmy, you there?
What? Michael, we just saw that as well. The second tower, the only one that was standing, tower #1, just we saw some kind of explosion, a lot of smoke come out of the top. of the tower, and then it collapsed down onto the streets below.